And welcome everybody to session 6 of our Plex Ed series. I'd like to introduce you to someone I've known a long time. She's new to Control+M, but certainly not new to the Plex world, Veronica Meyer. Veronica has been working with Plex for 6 or 7 years now, and she's really loving IntelliPlex. And she wants to share with you how easy it can be to make your own reports. So with that, Veronica, take it away. I'm going to put myself on mute.
Okay, hi everybody and welcome to our IntelliPlex Covering It All session. There's our agenda. We're going to cover the basics only today. There's a lot to IntelliPlex and an hour would not cut everything that I could possibly show you that it can do. So why would I want to do an IntelliPlex report, you're asking? Well, personally, I find it way easier than Visionplex, and I know that I am in the minority out there when I say those words. But I say that because I don't need to create a query first. So if I'm in Visionplex, I have to have a Sprock or I have to have a query that somebody's created for me to write against. IntelliPlex is going against the tables that create Plex. So they're out there for everybody. They're easy to find and they're easy to use. It is a very, very powerful report writer. If you're used to Crystal reports or any of those types of report writers, you're going to find it very similar to that. This is platform independent. Doesn't matter on your UX, doesn't matter if you're on Classic. This is licensed by Plex from a company called WebFocused, and it's their product called InfoAssist. The coolest thing about IntelliPlex reports, I can schedule them. So on Monday morning, if my accounting department always wants to know what has happened in the prior week on sales, on executive teams, you can create these reports. You can create a schedule. It can show up in their mailboxes 8 a.m. on Monday morning without anybody interfering or having to remember to run them. If you log into Plex and you don't see IntelliPlex, contact your CAE or CSM and have them add it to your PCNs. So to get started, what are the tools that are really going to help you do IntelliPlex reports? In UX, you're going to see them under databases and database table information. In Classic, you'll see, again, the databases, but it's going to be called database tables and columns. And what do those mean? Databases, think of as your modules. So you're dealing with the accounting module. You'll find a database called accounting. And in that accounting database, you're going to find all of the different tables that make up that module. So you'll have something there for cost, something for accounts receivable, something for accounts payable, your invoices, and they group them like that so that you can find information together. Security, how do we get started? So if you go into your PCN and you search for business intelligence, if it comes up in Classic, you'll see that box there. If it comes up in UX, of course, you already know that you're going to have actions and security roles assigned before you can see that. If you can see these modules and you click on IntelliPlex and it comes up with that big red box, or if it comes up with the security role has not been assigned, that means that there's a second set of security specific to IntelliPlex that has to be adjusted. So again, there's our UX actions and grids that you have to be assigned before you can even see it. And then there's the specific security role that is created by Plex that they create so that they tie it to that builders group. You then add members to the security role and then they can see it. So IntelliPlex security builders, let's talk about those. It's a group that is created, again, by Plex when they put IntelliPlex into your PCN. And it has to have that security role, again, created by Plex, assigned to it. So in Classic, you can see there's builders and there's viewers. Viewers are viewers of reports. So if I have an accounting group that has a very special report that you don't want the entire company to see, I can create a third IntelliPlex group specifically for that report, for that security role, and add my users to it. In UX, viewing is controlled by actions and security on the reports. So Plex comes with one builder license. Your PCN should have one, unless you, of course, have contracted for more. And you can do multiple people into a builder, but then only one person can use it at the same time. So I highly recommend using a very generic user called maybe report writer, report creator, and assigning it to that builder role. And it does a couple of things. If I've got 3 or 4 people who want to be able to create IntelliPlex reports, it saves me from having to go in to IntelliPlex security and putting different people into that builder role so that they can see IntelliPlex. The other thing it does is if I've created a number of IntelliPlex reports and I retire, if those reports were created under my ID and you disable my ID, those reports are not going to run, and people who might have been depending on them for their daily work are not going to be able to see them. Of course, if that happens, you can always contact Plex and they can move those reports to a more generalized area, but they have a tendency of not working really good if you move them around a lot. The other thing to remember, never ever change these builder names, because I've done that once. Plex had to come back in and rebuild them. It's security behind the scenes to these, and they have to be specific names. So now you've got your security laid down and you've clicked that IntelliPlex button and it opens to a screen. It's actually a much bigger screen than this, but I'm going to show you a piece of it at a time because it's too big for you to read and it would be straining on everybody's eyesight. So what do the dates mean when you see them in the middle of that report? So it says report server data as of 9:10 a.m. IntelliPlex runs against the report database. The report database is updated every 4 hours, and there's a difference between when it takes a snapshot of your live data in Plex and that data is available for you to view within IntelliPlex. So that's the difference between the 9:10 a.m. is when they took the snapshot of your live data. 9:48 a.m. is now when you can see it in IntelliPlex. So if you're looking to see when was it last updated, that's where you would find that information. Then there's the analytic platform. The analytic platform is a series of pre-built views on the tables that Plex has created. Plex only updates those once every 24 hours. So if you're writing a report against the analytic platform, that data can be up to 24 hours old. If you're writing a report against the report server, that data is updated once every 4 hours. There's help available in these screens. You've got the IntelliPlex reference guide. It's created by Plex. It's a very simple overview of IntelliPlex and kind of how to get around. The help on the top right side of the screen is the help from WebFocus. Way more in depth, way more complicated to read. So now I'm on the left side of the IntelliPlex screen and I have a domain. And under my domain should be my company name. If you don't find your PCN name there, open a case with Plex and have them fix your version of IntelliPlex. Under my company name, my PCN name, you see my content. That is my personal content for when I sign in as a builder. That would be where I can store my information. Any information stored there is only accessible by me and not by the general company. Again, that's back to that generic user ID. If that user ID is storing everything in there, then anybody who's using that ID can see it. I can store files at a higher level, at my PCN level. That makes them accessible if I have multiple builders and they're logging in, then they can see those files stored at that higher level. Then there's the analytic library dropdown. The analytic library, back to those stars that Plex has created. So these would be the reports that Plex has created. These are subscription modules. So you'd have to talk to Plex about having them added to your PCNs. And within those folders are widgets and reports that they have written, pre-written for you that saves you that extra time and effort of having to create them yourselves. Under the IntelliPlex community, there's another folder for Plex examples. In there are samples of some of the metrics that they have created upon those analytic tables. There's also samples based on some of the operational tables. You can copy these reports into your own files and edit them and use them as a basis to create your own IntelliPlex reports. Then there's the different colors of icons. So there's a chart icon and there's a report icon, and the chart icon's pretty definite. It shows you a little chart on it. The child icon is an example of a report. The schedule is the calendar with the little time on it, so you can schedule it by date and by time. Published versus unpublished, the blue icons are published icons. The gray are unpublished. If I've created as my own ID in the company level a report and I have not published it, other people will not be able to see it when they sign in. If I published it, then it is available to everyone in the community. At this point, I can right-click on a file or on a chart or on a schedule. I can edit them, I can publish them. So now I've created a new report. I was like, okay, I've chosen my folder, I've right-clicked it, I've selected new, and I said report. And then this other box comes up. I'm like, what the heck does all of that mean? This is the data that you're going to base your report on. So remember back on that first slide, we said, hey, here's your databases. So accounting, distribution, EDI is a database. And in that database is a collection of tables, which you're seeing on the right side. So there are analytics. And unlike the prior screen where you were seeing the analytical reports that Plex has pre-written for you, these are the analytic tables. The analytic tables are not subscribed. They are available to anybody that is able to create a report against them. Then there's the operational tables. The operational tables are the tables that run Plex on your day-to-day basis. So your operation tables, these are on the report server, updated every 4 hours, and they're broken out into enterprise for multiple PCNs. So if you're dealing with multiple PCNs and you select to run against, you want a report that combines one or more PCNs, you're going to have to know their PCN numbers to do the links, but that's how you use those tables. The exact same tables are under standard, and those are for single PCN use. Very easy to select them, use them, and continue on. And this is where the tools help to figure out which of these tables you might want in order to create the report you're looking to answer with. There's another section I'm not showing for SQL code. So if I've written my own Sprock and I want to use that as the base for my IntelliPlex report, then I would choose that. So now I've picked my tables, I've created my report, and now it looks like this. So now you're inside the report, you're actually going to put your columns in and your information. So you've got dimensions and measures. Think of dimensions as your alphanumerics, as people's names, and states and cities. Think of your measures as numbers, things that you can measure them against. So an amount, a $sign, that type of thing. There are tabs across. There's home and format and data. Those change based on the different columns that you're selecting in your report and what you want to do. You can create filters. So I can take my raw data and I can add a filter to it and limit it down to just the records I want to see. On this side it's a report, so I can create report columns and totals. I can create actual totals for subtotals within the report. So that's kind of a high level of how IntelliPlex looks. And we're going to go into the live demo. So there's my UX version. there's my IntelliPlex Analytics versus there's my role manager. There's my security piece. If I look at Classic, it looks very much the same. It's called IntelliPlex versus Analytics. I would go ahead and click on it. And wait for it to open, which is never normally this slow. IntelliPlex loads in its own window. So I'll have the report server here, and then as I open a report, it will load into its own window. And no, it's not normally this slow. So there's my center screen. There's my report server date. It was updated as of 9/10 this morning. It was been available to me since 9/48. If I look at the IntelliPlex reference guide, see it's very simple, how to create charts, how to format dates. This is extremely helpful when you're in the date part of that. Here's my domains. There's my Control+M PCN. If I link down to it, it will show me the reports that have already been created. If I go into the IntelliPlex community, it would show me the reports that it has created and the examples of some of the analytic reports or operational reports that you can copy and paste into your test files to manipulate to create your own report. So I'm going to create a new report. I'm going to click on Control+M. I'm going to right click, New Report. And it's going to open my window in order to select my tables. There it goes. This is being exceedingly slow today. So there's my web server. There's my choice of building against any of the analytic tables, which are the stars that they have created. So there's financials, procurement, production. There's operational tables, which are the live data up to 4 hours old that you can build against. I'm going to build against an accelerated table. Accelerated means that those are within the operational tables. Plex has pre-built views for you. So taking some of the guesswork out of what tables and what columns to link. I'm going to click standard because I am a single PCN. And then I'm going to say, here's my choices of the tables that are out there that have been pre-built on views. That's what the little V is. And I'm going to select the accounts receivable view. I'm going to click open. And there's the inside of my report. So there's my dimensions, there's my measures. I'm going to start to build my report and say I need a customer code, maybe an invoice number, and I'm clicking, it's coming over to the right. If I don't want a column, I can right click on it and I can delete it. And maybe I want the amount. I can take it and I can also drag and drop it. So now if I run this, I'll just add a period in there too with the hey, put it there. So if I added that, it creates a bar, so I can move them around, see the vertical bar that's changing, or I can leave it there. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And there's my first very functional report. So it gives me the status, somebody's period, the amounts, and it's grouped by printed and not printed. Well, maybe I only want the status of AR that has not been printed. So I'm going to go back to my live preview at the bottom, which is my base report versus my run report. And I'm going to filter on my status. I can do that a couple of ways. I can right click it and select filter. I can take that status and drop it down into the filter box and it will open. And it says status is equal to. That's fair. And then it's to say, what is it equal to? Well, I don't quite remember what that syntax is, so I'm going to click Get Values and show me all the values that are out there that I can check. I can check not printed. I'm going to double click that. It's going to say I'm going to select only the not printed. Hit OK. Hit OK. I'm going to move my period over to my left, just for the fun of it. And I'm going to click Run. And there is all my non-printed totals. So now that I've got that, it's like, I wonder how much everybody owes me. I can figure that out pretty easily. I'm going to go back to my live preview. I'm going to click Amount, and it brings up that field amount. If I click on Home, it's going to give me the report totals. So I want a column total, which would column down. Immediately appears at the bottom. If I wanted to total my row across, I would click the row total, and it automatically appears. Since I don't want the row totals, I just click it, and it disappears. If I click Run, there's my total that I'm due from all my customers. So now that I'm looking at this is getting to be a better and better report, but I really don't like the way that customer code is in there. I don't like that name. I'm going to go back to my live preview. I'm going to right click on my column, and I'm going to say go ahead and change the title on it. And instead of customer code, I'm going to put customer. I'm going to put 2 commas, and then I'm going to put the word name. And what that's going to do is wrap that column header into 2 lines. The benefit of doing that is that if you're making a report that is going to have a lot of columns and you're tight on space, that header, if it's larger than the data it's underneath it, this will conserve some of that space and tighten it up for you. So now that I've got that, it's like, well, that amount is good, but I really want to say, how do I format that? So I'm going to click on my amount column, and it's going to open or go to the field just for the amount and allow you to do all these different things that I could do with just that column. I'm just going to add a floating currency number in front of it. I'm going to click Run, and now it has a $sign in front. So this is getting better, and this is working for me. If I didn't want that $sign or decide I didn't like it, there's an undo button. I've used the undo button a lot some days, and it will take you back and undo it. If I decide I really did like it, I can hit the redo button and it'll put it back for me. So now I've got this pretty good looking report. And I'm just going to say, well, if I give this to somebody, they would not know what date I was running it on. So I'm going to add a date field at the top to show the date that I've run this report on. I'm going to go back to my live preview. I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to do a detail define. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. And I'm going to name my field. And I'm naming it my date. It's not going to be a decimal 12. It is going to be an alphanumeric 10. And I'm going to use the syntax of today. I'm going to say I want it in month, day, year format. And I'm going to close my parens. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to think about it. And it's going to create this new dimension over here to the left. It's going to be at the bottom of everything else that's there. So I'm going to take that my date and I'm going to drag it into my customer header. So I'm not going to go for a vertical line, not that you can see it, but there's a top line at the top. I'm going to drag and drop it. It's going to say, hey, you could possibly have multiple dates out there and it would look like that. But if I click run, since there's only one date in there, it's going to show the date. So now I have a report with a date in the column header. So I'm looking at this going, well, it'd be nice. I really don't need the status, but I wonder when this is due. So I'm going to go back to my report. I'm going to remove the status by deleting it. And I'm going to add when is this due. So I'm going to add it to the right of my customer name. I'm going to drop it as a sort. And then I'm going to click run. And that's now, I now know when my customers are going to pay me. But I've got strange dates and times out there. So Plex stores all of their dates, date time format, but that's kind of messy to look at. So what I want to do is change that structure and get rid of all those zeros. Very easy to do. I'm going to go back to my data, back to my detail define, and I'm going to flip right behind it for a second and look at the IntelliPlex reference guide and the dates in the format. And these H dates tells you how to pull part of the code so that you can manipulate your dates and your times. And your report is just sitting behind it. So I'm going to call this new due date. Its format is going to be month, day, year, year. And so that I don't have to type the whole thing, I'm just going to copy and paste it in there. But there's my H date that I found in that IntelliPlex reference guide. I'm going to say change my due date, which is this date here. So it has to have the table name in front of it. It says due date, and I'm going to have it in a year, month, day format. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to create the field. And again, it made a new dimension over here called new due date. I can drag this, I can drop it in, I can run it. And because it's a calculated field, it takes a little longer to do those, but you can see it is the exact same date, just without the zeros. So I'm going to go back to my live preview, and I'm going to remove that date by deleting it. So the other thing I'd like to do is well, maybe I want a total of my customers. And I'm going to click my customer name, and then it comes up again for the field, just for that customer code, and right there in the center is a subtotal. If I click subtotal, it's going to create, there we go, it's going to create a subtotal by customer. If I go ahead and run it, it's going to show me in sequence by period, by customer, by date, what each customer owes me. But it doesn't really do a good job of lumping all my customers together because they're all kind of broken up. That's because it runs left to right. So customer, I've told it to sum by customer, but it's after the period. If I move the period over, then it will sum by customer, by period, by date, and actually give me a much nicer looking report. So now I know for Artie's Artos that they owe me quite a bit money. So now I've got a report that's really almost ready to send to people. Nice thing I can do with this is also change its formats. So I'm going to go back to live preview and go home. And it gives me a choice of the different types of formats. This is an HTML report. One of my favorites is an active report. You can also do it in PDF or Excel or PowerPoint. Nice thing about sending people an active report in their email is when I run this, and it takes a second to come back for me. It now has all these cool little drop downs. If I click on one of those drop downs, I can start to do filters and calculations or charts within this report that I've sent to people in their email. They don't have to open Excel to do this. That's what the difference is in an active report. And it tells me how many records I've got, how many pages of this that I am looking at. In addition, I can also do layout choices so that if I click layout, I'm now at a report format. I can change my margins. I can change my orientation to landscape if I'm going to print this, and this is a much wider report than it is longer. So now that I've got all that, I'm going to go ahead and save it. And it's going to pop up with a box and say, well, what name would you like me to save you as? And I'm just going to say V's report 2 and click save. And now I've got a report that I'm almost 100% ready to send to somebody. But I'm thinking on it that if I set this and they see that customer, they're going to want to know what the phone number is so that they don't have to go look it up someplace else. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add a phone number to this report. Before I do that, I'm going to show you the Visionplex and how I would find that. So I would go to, it's reporting and analytics, it's called Visionplex, but that's where I find my database table information. Doesn't matter whether I'm doing this in Classic or UX, other than it's not behaving. There she goes. There's my database. So under accounting, it would tell me all of my accounting information, but I really want to go my table information. And I'm going to look for a column called phone because I know what I want. I just don't know where I want it. And it's going to come back and say, hey, these are all the column names that have the word phone in them. And these are all of the tables that they're associated with. So I know I'm looking for a customer and a phone. So my database name is common, my table name is customer, my column name is phone. If I go back into my report, I can now go to data, join, and it's going to open the table that I'm already in. That's the one I've got. And I'm going to add a new table. And I'm going to add an operational table. And I know it's in the common database. I know I'm staying with a single PCN, so I'm remaining with the standard databases. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to look for a common view of the customer table. And there it is, common V customer. I'm going to click open. And it's going to bring that table into my report for me to be able to select columns off of. The other thing it did for me is it automatically did a join between the two tables. So the system knew that if I took the customer code from the accelerated table, it would match the customer code in the common customer table. Sometimes it does that right, sometimes it does not. I'm going to click OK. And you're going to see your dimensions have jumped. There's a lot more dimensions and a lot more measures because now it's showing you all the available columns from both tables. I'm going to go down, I'm going to look for my phone. I'm going to drag my phone into the right. There's the vertical bar of my customer name and drop it. It's added the phone. If I go ahead and run, it's now going to have the phone number next to my customer. And this makes it pretty near a phone that I can, or a phone I can use, a report that I can send to anybody that would need to know this information. I'm going to go ahead and click save. And I'm going to say thank you for saving it successfully. I'm going to close that box, going to go into my base IntelliPlex, and now I see this new report. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to schedule it. I'm going to schedule it in an email. And it's going to create that information for you. So it has already given it a title. I can put a summary in there. It says the task is that report. That FEX is its name for it. I can set its reoccurrence at this point, and I could say I would like it weekly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it'll run between 7 a.m. and 9. If I want it at 8 a.m. in the morning, then I would just change this time to 8. And it will run between 8 a.m. and 11:59 p.m. on December 29. So now I know what I'm going to send. I know when I'm going to send it, and who am I going to send it to? It's my distribution list. So I'm going to pick myself, from myself, I'm replying to myself, but I'm going to change my subject to be new report. And if I wanted to send it to multiple people, I would put a comma in, and I would type, oh, so we're going to send this to Patty too. And so now it goes to 2 people. Notifications are for errors. So if this report chose not to run, if this report had an issue with it, I could say, always send me a copy of this when it runs. Always notify me when it is on error. The log reports is for when the schedule runs. It tells you that it did run and how long it took. I can save and close at this point and save this schedule. And I'm going to title my schedule. I title my schedules, by the way, with the word schedule and then the name of the report that it's running to schedule. And that way I don't have to keep opening my schedules to see what is running to whom. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And it's created that schedule. If I right click on that schedule and publish it, it's now available for everybody to be able to see. Again, I'm going to right click on my report and I'm going to publish it for everybody to be able to see it. So that's a very simple, very easy IntelliPlex report. I'm going to show you how to do a really quick chart. I'm going to right click a report that I already have out there. I'm going to click edit. Think of it as if I had copied the last report and made it into a new report. Works the same way. It's going to open my report. And I'm going to say, I'd like to know by customer how much they owe me. That's really the only 2 things I need to know. So I'm going to delete all the columns I don't want, the phone, the month, the status, the date, because I really don't care about that either, the new date. And I'm going to leave myself with just 2 columns, just like I would create a chart in anything else. So it's a customer and amount. If I go ahead and run it, it's going to be a very simple 2-column report. I'm going to go back to my live preview. I'm going to go to my format, and I'm going to pick the word chart instead of report. It's automatically going to chart the information that I got in that report for me. So it's a bar chart. If I click run, it's going to give me the data points for the amount and for the customer. And there she goes. Again, I can schedule these and send them. If I just hover over it, it tells me who owes me and how much. If I don't like this chart, so because it's an active report, it'll let me change the chart within the report that I would send to people. Otherwise, I can do it from here and say, what would a line chart like this look like? And it just automatically changes it. When I run it, it would change it for a line chart. That's as simple as charts can be. And that is the end of me showing you how easy it is to create IntelliPlex reports. So we covered a lot of things. We did not cover everything that IntelliPlex could do, but those are the things you just kind of learned how to do. I turn this over for questions.
Don't forget to unmute yourself if you have a question. Veronica, you must have done such a great job. No one's got any questions.
I know I'm awesome that way.
Okay, well.
I have a question.
Great.
Is the database that IntelliPlex is pulling from the same one that you can ODBC connect to pull data from?
I believe so. I am not 100% certain on whether you ODBC against the report server or the live database.
You ODBC against the report server, Veronica.
There you go. She's got the answer.
I mean, that's what I heard last time we used it. So unless that's changed, it was about 2 years ago. So, any other questions? All right, Veronica, you want to hit the next slide for us?
I sure can.
All right, so after I watched Veronica set up for this presentation, I have to confess, I think even I could use IntelliPlex to write a simple report, which is saying a lot, right? So next week is PowerPlex. If you haven't already signed up, please take a few minutes to do it. It's virtual and it's free. Go to www.powerplex.com. And I understand that even if you can't attend a specific session live, if you registered for it, you'll be able to watch the recording. So please do. We're really proud sponsors of this year's format. Plex has done an amazing job pulling this together, not pushing the date out. The slide here shows the 6 sessions that we're presenting as a company. We're also a sponsor of the Women in Manufacturing and Technology session. So it's going to be a happy hour, sort of, Kathy Lee style, with some really amazing women on the panel. We're going to miss seeing everyone's faces in person. So many of you have become friends over the years, but safety first, right? So Veronica, if you don't mind, give me the next slide. Finally, we need your help. We need to pick a subject for our next session. So obviously next week, PowerPlex, we're not going to compete with PowerPlex. We've got a couple of ideas here, so take a second to screenshot this. If you have a preference, please email Jill at control.m.solutions. Her email is up on the screen. Let her know what you'd like to see. We have gotten some ideas already. What we'll do is we'll get together with our team, find out who the best person to deliver the content would be and make sure they're available. If you have more ideas, please do share them with Jill. Today's presentation was a result of Diane at Angle Tool reaching out saying, hey, we'd love to just be able to get an intro to what we already have. So thank you, Diane. I will be posting this recording of a session on our YouTube channel. We have the links to this session as well as all of our previous sessions out on our website. So please feel free to check them out, to give us a thumbs up, and to subscribe if you'd like to see all of our content. And lastly, please share this link with others, right? Like I said, it's not just for our clients, it's for everybody in the Plex community. Just like we do at PowerPlex and user group meetings, we just want to share with you, how to do the basic things that'll make your life easier. And finally, thank you everyone for attending. We want to wish you, your coworkers, your loved ones, a safe and healthy day and a fast recovery for your business. So take care, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.